So this is a follow-up video to the past couple of videos that I've made involving this. So, a couple of weeks ago I released a video about finally getting hold of the FTX Ramraider, although it's the brushed version rather than the brushless, because the reason why I bought this was to convert it into brushless later, because buying this brushless would work out more cost effective. But when I took this to Kingswood, not far from my aunt's house, there was an issue I encountered where I ran this on NiMH, where it ran a lot slower and didn't have anywhere near as much torque as did when you run it on lipos. On lipos it was fine, but when I ran it on NiMH, it started off fine, but then just went really slowly, and that was on a fully charged NiMH pack. But to highlight this, I just want to try this one more time around a flat surface area, just to show where I'm getting at. Okay, so I'm actually taking it for a slight walk, and it seems to be starting off not great, as it should be, but when I get further down, I assume that that's going to get a lot worse, kicking up a bit of stones there. Okay, so I've been doing a few speed runs, and if I bring it a lot closer just so you can see the acceleration, here we go. Yeah, so that's not, so it's definitely a lot slower than when it first started, but okay, so that's the speed on a fully charged NiMH. So let's try and find some areas where it's going to require a bit of torque. Okay, so here's quite a steep area, and I think this might illustrate the, well, maybe not. Well, it seems to be getting up that hill fine. Bring it back down. Let's just... I really thought that would struggle, but okay, so handling a lot better than I actually thought it would, but not as good as it should be. So trying to drive it that way so it doesn't roll down the hill. Okay, so now further into it, it is starting to struggle a little bit. Right, well on that note, time to head back to the garage. Actually scratch that, because I've just realised that the brake function doesn't quite function in the way that it should do, because if I go full forward and then brake, so my finger is on the brake and it stopped, but let's try it one more time. So my finger's on the brake, but it still rolls down the hill just that slightly, so that adds more problems to what I believe is the culprit. Okay, so while I was driving down that long stretch of road, a old and very clearly isolated woman referred to me as a man with little boys' toys. Okay, 1, I did not like what she was insinuating. 2, this is recommended for ages 14 and up, although that isn't to stop anyone younger than 14. I'm sure that there are people way younger than 14 years old who are very experienced radio control drivers. And in general, these things are not toys. They're not as convenient as toys, they require more maintenance than toys, and I think I've said just about enough there. I think that's pretty self-explanatory, and I probably should really take that with a pinch of salt and not really think much. Anyway, moving on. So let's just take a look inside of this. Okay, so I want to take a good look because there is one thing that I believe is the culprit for this thing lacking so much power on nickel metal hydride packs, and that is this right here. So this, although it's a Hobbywing ESC, I do believe that this is a 40 amp ESC, but I just want to take this out just to take a closer look at it. So, okay, so I've taken the ESC out just to take a look at it, and it is a Hobbywing TWP 1040, so this is a 40 amp ESC, and this, for a 550 motor, just isn't enough. And you could argue that brushed is absolutely obsolete in terms of torque for trucks or monster trucks or whatever type of truck there are, but I just want to show something real quick. Okay, so this is my Maverick Strada XT, and this was what got me back into hobby grade RC cars. So we have got a 540 motor here, and we do have an ESC, but that is a 30 amp ESC, and even though that is 10 amps fewer than the one that's in the Ramraider Brushed, this, put together with the 20-ton, it did originally have a 22-ton motor in there, but that burnt out, so I put a 20-ton motor in. So this combination together for this setup, for this truck, actually has some kick to it, and that is even on nickel metal hydride packs. It doesn't struggle with torque, it has some good kick, it has some good speed to it. So to say that brushed is absolutely useless for trucks is pretty much categorically untrue. There is also another example I do want to show. So we've also got this, which is one of two 1994 Traxxas Rustlers, and this is using quite an old LRP runner. I believe this is the V1 version, and just looking at the technical specs, if I'm right, please correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that the rated current of this at 7.2 volts is 92 amps. So that provides a lot of kick for something like this, and even though this is two-wheel drive, you can argue that the other two four-wheel drive, that could make a big difference. But even then, so that amount of amps ESC, for even though that's the 540 motor, does provide quite a lot of power. So it's pretty evident that that Hobbywing ESC, the 40 amp one, was not providing enough power to this. So we're going to fix that, and yeah, the 540 motor in those other two cars are going to make a difference. But this, keeping in mind, is a 550 motor, which is slightly more beefy, slightly longer than the 540. So obviously that's going to need quite a bit more amps in that. So to combat the issue that I was having with this, so we're eliminating the 40 amp ESC, and going to be trying out this. So this I have previously used in my Tamiya TL01, which I recently restored, and the video on that will hopefully come next week. But this is a Wasido, I still can't remember I still don't know how to pronounce the company name. But if we take it out, this, which thankfully already has an XT60 fitted to it, is what I will be fitting to the FTX Ramraider, and this is just to keep me occupied until the brushless CSC and the brushless motor arrives for this, because the plan, I've already mentioned this in my review of this, that the plan with this is to convert it from brush to brushless, because buying this brush and then converting it to brushless would be more cost effective than buying it brushless, and considering the deal I got on this, that makes it a huge difference. So before I put this in, I just want to grab the 40 amp PSC and just do a quick comparison. Okay, so just plugged it back in briefly, just to give it a little test comparison. I'll lift it up. So here it is on the 40 amp PSC. Okay, so there's that. Okay, now what I've done is I've hooked up the 80 amp ESC to the Ramraider. Now, I have no idea what this is going to be like, so hopefully this does prove a point. Okay, so not as quick as an acceleration, so there's not much difference in terms of acceleration speed, but I can definitely feel there is a speed difference there. So on that note, let's get this hooked up and actually fitted into the Ramraider. Alright, so that is the 80 amp ESC in there. Oops, I forgot to turn it off. So, with double the amps we've now got in comparison to this, which was included in the Ramraider, time to take it outside, hopefully it's not gotten too dark, and give this a test run. Okay, so this is the very first speed run with the 80 amp ESC in, and I've only just turned the truck on, so turn the transmitter on. So that's paired up nicely. Okay, it's better, not as good as I thought it would be. Oh, sorry. Let's get that out of harm's way. So I might run it around for just a little bit and see where it picks up, but that definitely feels a lot better than how it was with the 40 amp ESC in, so that definitely feels like it has made a difference. Okay, so just as I was about to start running it again, it's starting to do the thing, and keeping in mind this is on a fully charged NiMH battery, so I am starting to wonder if it's an issue with the motor or the transmitter, or the radio gear. But this is exactly what happened with the 40 amp ESC. It was doing this exact same thing. Okay, this is interesting. Okay, so I've taken this out, and in the Ramraider I have actually put in an HPI 7.4 volt hard case LiPo. I think it's 3,200 milliamp hour from memory, but I just want to see how this one's on a full charge in comparison with the... Okay, I swear that has got a bit more kick to it than compared to the 40 amp, but that's... Yes, you're coming, I'll just get that out of the way. Just want to run it around for a little bit more, just to see what happens. Now, if that car goes up there, that will be a problem. Okay, thankfully it's not. Okay, so I'm sort of happy with that. Okay, so after running it around for a few minutes and driving it back to my house, I have 86% left on the charge, which actually isn't too bad, given how much power consumption this setup in the Ramraider Brushed does have. But overall, in comparison to, where was it? Oh yeah, here it is. So, in terms of taking out this, which was a 40 amp ESC, and replacing it with 80 amp, so doubling it, it has made some improvements, not as big as I hoped it would be, but has been a lot better in terms of when it was running on the NiMH. But it is still doing that thing where even on a fully charged nickel metal hydride pack, it still cuts out and sort of slows it down to roughly, I think, about 20% as to how fast it can go. And it's weird because in all my life of having radio controlled hobby grade cars, I've never had this issue, and that's been using brush setups in on-road stuff, off-road stuff, you name it. No matter what the vehicle is, if it's had a brush setup, I've never had this issue. So I'm starting to wonder if the 550 motor has anything to do with it, or maybe something to do with the radio gear. So either way, I'm gonna think about investigating, but that might not be for a video in case I could be here ages trying to work out a diagnostics. But if anyone does have the answer as to why this is happening, please let me know in the comments, because that would be greatly appreciated. But overall, at least there was an attempt. I did try and fix the issue I was having with the Ramraider, but it does seem to have worked in a way. But on, do you have it here? Yeah, so on lipos, it's absolutely fine. In fact, it has tweaked the performance just that little bit. I know it may not seem noticeable on camera, but on lipos, this setup is absolutely fine. However, when you're using NiMH, it does seem to have this issue where even when it's fully charged, it runs around for maybe a couple of minutes and then it cuts out, it slows it down, so that's not great. And for people who, because there's still quite a large portion of people who are out of their comfort zone when it comes to lipos, and that is completely understandable given the very serious safety precautions you have to take with these things, regardless of if it's a hard case or not, and regardless of what type of charger you do use for this, whether that be low current, whether that be dedicated to lipo. Anyway, yeah, so lipos, safety with these do need to be taken very seriously, so I can sympathise with anyone where these are completely out of their comfort zone and are still using NiMH packs. Anyway, so I think I'm going to leave it there for this video. So the next plan with this Ramraider is, I know I've mentioned this earlier on in the video and earlier on in my first video about the Ramraider. The plan with this is to take all of the brushed drive setup out, the motor, the ESC, obviously, that's pretty much all there is to it. So take that out and put Surpass Hobby brushless stuff in it, because I have used brushless stuff in my Plasma Edge 2 from Surpass Hobby, and that's been working fine, especially on NiMHs. But also the huge benefit of using brushless in this is more efficiency, because brushed doesn't have as much efficiency in terms of brushless, and therefore meaning a much higher power consumption. So it means that I could be using these packs and the pack that came with this for quite some time. So that's going to be it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. This didn't come down, or it didn't go down in the way that I actually hoped it would, but in terms of what I'll be posting next week, I actually don't know. Maybe I'll surprise you with something. Oh no, I do know what's coming next week, the TL01 restoration, so that will be next week's video, and after that, I don't know, but we'll have to wait and see what happens. But thank you so much for watching in the meantime, and I'll see you next week.